So let's talk about like a little bit of the business side of podcasting. So when you started Mixergy as an early internet show, is that what it called, like internet show back in the day?
Podcast. Yeah,
there was no YouTube, there's no podcast. Did you mean for it to be a business, or was it just a way to like interview people? Like what was the reason? I'm trying to figure out the reason I started this. I think it's just fun to like have
Why did you start it? You're getting really good at it. I feel like, you know what, you're always good at this stuff. I feel like you've gotten good at the machine part of the creation.
Got a little better at it.
The stupid emails are like on point all the time. They come in. The recordings are interesting. The way that you now clip out parts of the show and make it into small YouTube videos, the whole thing is like so organized.
Well, selfishly, here's what I get out of it.
Yes.
Whenever I have one of these conversations, so I write all these questions out myself, right? I have to. So I have to write all these questions out so it's kind of like an organized show. Otherwise, it just rambles on into nothing. And I have to think about that person, what to ask them. Then I think, oh, this would be an interesting question to ask them. And then later, I have to make this into a post and an email and titles and clips. So I kind of have to go through it, and I listen on like 2x speed or 3x speed, like on VLC player, and I take notes on it.
Okay.
So I have to take my own notes, and therefore I remember it. And then I'll end up watching my own clips. Like I watch my own podcast all the time.
I can't believe you do that.
Yeah, it's hilarious. And so I watch it, and so I feel like I personally just learn a bunch, and hopefully other people do. I don't know if that's true or not, but I hope that I learn from it. So I try to get people I want to interview about things.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So when you came in here, beyond like what whoever's out there wants to learn, what's the one thing that you said, I need this one thing selfishly?
I mean, I'm trying to figure out the reasoning behind the podcast necessarily.
Why are you doing your podcast?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or it's just interesting, like when you look at YouTube stats, like what hits and what doesn't. Like interviews are never as popular as like a proper YouTube, like, hey guys, this is Neville training. That one's always going to be more popular. But the watch time on these is through the roof. And get this, I'll go to like a conference or something, some CEO will be talking and be like, oh, Neville, right? Like I watched your thing with whatever. And I'm like, really? Wow, that's crazy that you did that. They never talk about the training videos. They talk about like the interviews.
Yeah.
My mom listens to the interviews. Hi, Mom. And like that kind of stuff. So I don't know. There's something to it. I don't know. Maybe like having other people with credibility gives me more credibility. I don't know. Are these all reasons to have a podcast?
It absolutely rubs off on you. Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's a big one. I think the relationships that start off as a podcast could end up going on and becoming long-term friendships, which then is really useful for work and for life. When I started though, I just wanted to not screw up again in business. I came out of that one business that you talked about where we did over $30 million thinking I could do anything in business. I'm not great in life. I'm not great in sports, but I'm great at business. And then when the thing didn't work out, the next thing that I did, which was invitations, I just thought my world was rocked and I want to never make that kind of mistake again. And I said, I'm going to find people who've done things well and just talk to them and understand what's worked for them. And I couldn't just call them up and be needy, but I could do this, this podcast and ask them questions.
So
that helped.
So you've had people, I mean, like Barbara Corcoran and Gary Vaynerchuk and all that kind of stuff. Do you reach out? Like, what's your thought process whenever you reach out to them? Are you thinking, I want to ask this person questions? Or are you thinking they'll get a lot of views or people will like this or what?
I tend to think about, my problem these days is that it's become kind of a machine for me. And so the machine takes away some of the heart and some of the need. In the beginning, it was seeing someone do something well and saying, I want to know how you did it, or seeing somebody make a statement that seemed a little bit outrageous and it pushed a button in me, and then saying, can I interview you about it to understand, is this real or not? And so that's where it started. And then at some point it does become kind of a machine and does lose a little bit of that heart. I don't know who I'm going to interview tomorrow, but I have a process to make sure that my audience will care about them, that someone on my team knows that I will care about them, and that's helpful. But now that you bring it up.
Well, I mean, I always thought, like, where does this go long term? So I remember when I first started this, I was like, I'm going to do one interview per week because we got the process down where it goes relatively quick. And I was like, I do one interview a week. Here's the problem. You also got to promote one interview a week then. And it's a lot of interviews, especially to ask someone like, hey, watch this, me for talking for an hour with a person. It's a lot. And sometimes it's a little bit disjointed. Right? If I talk to you, then I talk to Gary Vaynerchuk, and this other person, it's a little bit disjointed. And so I always thought I was going to do 250 episodes. I don't know why. I really pulled that number out of my ass. But I thought, like, some of these podcasts, like you've seen, yours has been around forever, but a lot of people started and then went. And they interview like 100 people, and then they're like, damn, this is hard. Like, I got to do this all the time. I think there's like too many episodes. Like, people are interviewing for the sake of interviewing. it seems.
It could be that at some point it's going to die. I would say that you don't have to promote every interview. You don't have to sit and listen to each interview on double speed and do something. I think that what you could do is just say, I care about meeting these types of people. I just want to have a process where I can meet these people, have a conversation with them, and then leave it for the audience to listen to. And maybe this is not the thing that you promote and produce. It's just a part of your personal education, and then let everyone else learn along with you. And that'll free you up to say, what am I just genuinely curious about this week? And go find that.
That's pretty cool. I actually like that answer. That's a very selfish answer. I'm into it.
Yeah, I think that the best interviews tend to be the most selfish interviews, the ones where you can see that someone's hunting for something. And it's true for mine. One of the interviews that I did was with Cameron Harold, who used to be the COO of 1-800-GOT-JUNK. At the time, my business was so disorganized because everything was on me and I was overwhelmed. And I threw all the lessons out the window and I just said, Cameron, I need to hire someone. I don't know how to do it. It's not working out. And we just did a coaching session, but the audience loved it. I got a lot out of it. I think there's a lot to be said for that.
Is that a thing? Like a lot of your guests become friends, or some of them? Or
I think so. I think to some degree, absolutely. Some unfortunately you never see again and you don't talk to again. And then others you end up becoming long friends with.
So how does a podcast make money? Like, what are the different ways you've seen, you've made money off the podcast through a subscription?
And I can tell you about other ways that other people have. For me, I started out with advertising, and then I added membership. The first thing that I did with membership was people said that they would pay for my older interviews. I said, great, I'll lock up the older ones. And if people have membership, they could pay a monthly fee and they get access to all the older ones. I like that because I just needed something to put into the membership. And then I added more stuff like courses, and you did a course for us on copywriting, and other material went into the membership. There's someone who helped me, a guy named Bob Heiler, helped me think about the business side of my business. One of the things that he started doing was doing interviews he liked getting leads for lawyers. So he started interviewing the kinds of people that he wanted to do business with. And at the end of the interview, after people were done, they go, so what is it that you do? And then he'd tell them how he helps lawyers get new clients by doing ads for them. And they say, you know what, I could use that. So now they've gotten to know him for an hour. They've gotten to trust him. They've seen that he took an interest in them. They trust him, and they end up hiring him to get leads for them. And I think that that's a very valid business model. The other thing that it does is he gets to learn the lingo. He gets to understand what lawyers care about, how they talk, how they promote themselves, what they're looking for.
That's interesting. Interview peeps you want as clients.
Yeah. Do it as for business development. There's so many people you can reach out and sell to, but
it's so funny. I'm talking to a company. I won't say the name of the company, but it's a big company that we're talking to about doing a public experiment like this. And I was like, I like them as a client because they bought a bunch of memberships for their marketing team. And I was like, what if we should do a podcast episode with them where we just redo their stuff on the fly?
That's interesting.
That was the number one thing that I found out last month, that most people just don't know what we do. They have no idea. And we're just like, if you have a webpage, we'll help you redo that webpage, make it convert more. Just simple.
You did this other thing with us. So we've hired you over the years. And one of the things that you did with us was you got together with us and you helped us rewrite material, and you did it in real time. You didn't want to see anything ahead of time. You did it with us. Then, because you were so good at it, we brought on one of our sponsors onto a Zoom call with you, our writers, and the sponsor, and we said, here's what they do. Yeah. Will you tell us how Andrew, could promote them better in my podcast? And dude, in real time, you were riffing, and it was amazing to see how you come up with ideas in real time, how you understand what we're trying to do, how you give us different options. It was fan-frickin-tastic. I think there's something in that.
Well, I mean, that's what we do, but at scale, right? So we have, obviously there's only one of me. So we do office hours where people talk one-on-one and people can join and ask questions and all that stuff.
You mean within the community?
Yeah, within the community. We do it every week. And I think the bigger thing that's going to scale even larger is we have a forum. So I call it a forum, but it's a community, call it whatever you want. But basically I have to be able to take a giant landing page and be able to give a lot of feedback on different parts of it. Mm-hmm. And so a forum seems to be the best way to do that. A Facebook group it's impossible. You literally can't do it with that tech.
I hate Facebook for that.
I don't hate Facebook for that. It just, for our use, it just didn't work. It's not possible. And so we had to make our own thing. And so we do that at scale. So when people are in there, they're like, oh, I didn't realize you do this. I'm like, yeah, we're doing a bad job. So I'm almost thinking on this, what if instead of just talking to you, we would bring up your page and go through it live, and somehow we superimpose the page. That could be a cool twist on the podcast instead of just interviewing.
I think it makes sense. I think that if you think about selfishly, what do you need? And if you think about your audience, what do they need? I think that's the goal of it. I think when we start to think of ourselves as performers, when we start to think of ourselves as the next David Letterman because we saw something Letterman did years ago, we lose it. It has to be, I didn't even ever call my stuff a show. I just don't want it to be that. I'm not a performer. I just wanted to understand what people do. If you could just bring on one of your customers, if you could bring on somebody who signed up but didn't complete the purchase and just talk to them, what are they going through? I feel there's a lot of value in that, in you learning and you doing customer discovery, in you talking to people who did buy from you. I think there's something in that.
Yeah, I've done all that stuff in private. But you know what? Being the problem is, like, I'm going to remember this conversation, one, because it's on video, one, because it's on audio, and the other because I took notes on it. So I'm going to remember this conversation. Those conversations, I get really excited. I take a sentence or two of notes, and then I forget. So, that's a very good suggestion for this.
And I'd say also for anyone who's listening to us, I think that they should just chill out on the idea of what a podcast is. If they're thinking, I'd like to do it, I'm not sure, I think that they should absolutely do it. And the thrust of it should be, who are they curious about? Who they want to talk to? Who they want to learn from? And stop reaching for like the people who've written the books that are on your bookcase, but think about the people who are in their world, like their boss from college, the person who's in a community that they're with, that they see that they're a step ahead or they're doing something interesting. Just learn from them, get to know them. That's the goal. Don't try to do a show. Don't try to beat someone else's numbers.
Interesting. Yeah, I think a lot of people try to copy, like, especially dudes, try to copy like Joe Rogan, Howard Stern, that kind of stuff. It's like, you're not them though.
You know what? If that's what you want to do, go ahead and do it. But that's not really what we all want to do. I think that there are two different aspects of us. There's an aspect that just wants to be super famous and wants all that, and good luck. I mean, I think it's great. Do it. But there's another part that's a little bit simpler that would do the informational interview if we could, that would just say, I see someone who's rich. How did you get so rich? I see someone who did this thing I want to do. How'd you do the thing I want to do? How'd you finish writing a book? How'd you do a marathon? Whatever it is you want to learn from them, just do that. And let the fact that you're doing it as a podcast be the excuse. Let the fact that now everyone's allowing podcasters to grow, let that be a thing for you. Let the fact that the person you want to talk to is probably curious about podcasting themselves and will do it just to see what your process is. Let that be the thing. And then once you start to figure out how to ask the right questions, how to learn from somebody, it's just invigorating. And they're going to love you because you've tapped into who they are. You genuinely took an hour to learn from them.
There's an interesting analogy of Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine, the lead guitarist on that.
Okay.
Rage Against the Machine still to this day sounds completely unique from any other band in history. And he always talked about, he went to Harvard and he would practice like 8 hours a day. And he had told a story that the reason his guitar playing, most people are like, is that a guitar that he's playing? What is that thing? He's just like, I realized early on that it was a piece of wood and a couple of strings and some like basic electronics. You can do whatever you want with it. It doesn't have to be just strumming an A chord or something like that. He said, you do whatever you want. And I like how he kind of just went his own way with that and created this totally unique thing that's almost like impossible for anyone to recreate.
Now I want to go back and hear their music. I don't remember it standing out like that.
You don't remember Rage Against... Dude, you can get the hell out of my house. Yes. Okay, so from Rage Against the Machine to podcast sponsorships. Is this a big part of Mixergy? Like sponsorships, like, is this a big part of your revenue? Or
it goes on and off. It's it varies. There was a period there where I wanted to get rid of membership because the less things you have behind a paywall, the more people discover you and things grow. And so I was about to get rid of it. And then I interviewed this woman whose whole business was membership, and she said that she'd like to have both because at one point in like 1999 or 2000, when the whole internet went bust, she hated that all her revenue went away because she put all her eggs in one basket. And I thought, you know what? I'll be a little bit safer, and I'm glad I was, because there's some years that advertising is so big that it dwarfs memberships. There's some years where membership is so big that you think, why am I even dealing with advertisers? Why am I helping them out? And why am I distracting from selling my own stuff? It goes up and down, and what I've discovered is that it's a nice way to balance things to have both.
That's a very, interesting take. I thought one would just dwarf the other for some reason.
I did too.
I guess you said something,
and truthfully,
it
some years
fluctuates.
one does dwarf the other, yeah.
Very interesting. Did you ever hear about the Tim Ferriss experiment that he did where he removed advertising for a while and people revolted and were like, no, we want the advertising?
You know what? I get it. I've learned not to disbelieve him, but I don't think I would ever bolt from advertising. But as a listener, I can't imagine going, I'm not listening, Tim, because your ads aren't there.
But you know what? At first I thought, I was like, is he bullshitting? 'Cause so for context, Tim Ferriss became post-economic, as Balaji Srivastava would call it, where basically he never needs any more money because he got rich as hell off of Twitter and Uber IPOs and stuff like that, right? So had hundreds of millions of dollars. And he said, you know what? I don't really need to have advertisements in my show, so I'll just get rid of them, see what happens. And it turns out people actually really liked his advertising because he would talk about products he liked, and they would discover new products, much like AppSumo or The Hustle or something like that people discovered things through it. And I actually agreed. I listened to some of his episodes where it went straight into it, and I thought I would like it. And I was like, I do kind of like that he mentions new products, though. Like I heard about like 8 Sleep or other like different brands through them. And I was like, okay, I can see why people want to hear the advertising because he only vets the good ones.
Yeah.
And you kind of believe him that like he wouldn't advertise something really shitty because he doesn't need the money.
So, you know what? I've taught my audience how to skip ads. You can just say, hey, Siri, jump forward 30 seconds, skip this. I've even created a button on my phone. I could show it to you. It's called the Nuke It button. Right there, Nuke It. It will skip 90 seconds in any podcast. And all I have to do if I'm running and I don't like the ad, I can just say, hey, Siri, nuke it. And it just runs that one shortcut that I created and jumps forward a minute and a half. The ads are done. Ha! It's totally fine. I want people to skip ads that suck. It's in their power to skip ads that suck. I think then it makes it more interesting for us to say, how do we make these ads more interesting? For me, I tend to have advertisers who want to buy the whole year. And so what do you do to make an ad interesting? So if I have HostGator over and over again, what do? And what I discovered was I kind of like how The Hustle in their podcast, they'll come up with ideas. And so since HostGator is great for hosting websites, I'll turn to my guest, and I always include my guest in the ads. I'll say, HostGator is a place to go host websites. If you had nothing but a HostGator account and you had to start from scratch, what idea would you come up with? And these entrepreneurs always have a bunch of ideas, and they'll throw one out and say, here's what I would do. And I think it's fascinating. I talked to this one guy, his whole business is about helping companies ship their products out at the right rate. I said, what would you do? He said, Andrew, what you need is a product that people need to buy over and over again. And it has to be ideally small so that shipping is inexpensive. And as we were talking, we both brainstormed together and we said, what about spices? A lot of spices don't have much flavor. He goes, that's exactly it. McCormick is the big brand for spices. There's no new McCormick of the internet, something that has like more spicy spices. And he goes, light, it makes sense. So now I'm getting the advertising to be more content. And then the fact that there's an ad connected to it, I think it's helpful.
Interesting. Okay. Something you said blew my mind. You said someone bought the whole year. I never thought of that as a concept.
Yeah.
I never thought of that.
Yeah.
Because we've had some sponsorships here and there for like our email list and stuff. I was just experimenting with it. And it was like pretty good money, actually. I was like, that could be a whole other revenue stream for sure.
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting. So...
And doesn't Tim Ferriss also, he has affiliate programs in his email, right? So he'll do an email with different products that he recommends. He makes money from affiliates. I think there's another thing to that, Neville, that we want to know what our audience cares enough about to buy. And if we're just running our own products, I don't think we're exposing ourselves to enough ideas. I also have sponsors who will come in for just a couple of weeks. And I want to see, does the audience care about their products? Am I missing a need that somebody has in the audience?
What, so you've always been doing video interview also, right? Like
I don't publish it anymore, but yes.
Okay, but you used to.
Yeah.
Did you ever do clips? Because I noticed that's kind of like a new thing. Like I know I started seeing it from Joe Rogan. All those comedians I follow do the same thing. So I started doing clips.
I can't make my clips work. I can't take somebody's story and edit it down in a way that tells the story well. Whenever I get into that, I feel like I should just tell their freaking story because it's too disjointed to do it. But I definitely like when Joe Rogan does it. I've seen other people do it well too.
I mean, that's why I organize these the way I did. So I had podcasting, promoting a podcast, content, marketing, interviewing. Like I have all these sections.
Yeah.
And so someone takes the notes down and then like we cut it after the interview.
Yeah.
So I was just curious. I talked to a couple of YouTube consultants and they were also just curious how the clips channels go because I have a separate clips channel where instead of this whole interview, you can get like the individual clips.
I think I might see that from your email, but don't you do 10-minute clips?
There's no time limit on them.
Okay.
Like I think this section, like it's going to be podcasting plus promoting a podcast. This might be a 20-minute clip. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, we just kind of go back and editing and do it. But I was just curious if you had any thoughts on that because it seems like this new era of like there's the big content, then there's the kind of mid-sized content, and then you can really pare it down to like a 1-minute TikTok type.
I think
thing.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm super into chess right now, and I watch chess videos. some of these chess YouTubers are so phenomenally interesting that they will do clips of like 60 seconds of them analyzing a game or 60 seconds of them falling off a chair, and they get tens of thousands of views on these new clips.
Yeah, it's kind of just this whole other thing. I don't think one's better than the other necessarily.
Yeah.
Well, for some things, it's better. If you want to learn how to cook an egg right away, a 60-second video can probably do it. You don't have to watch a 20-minute Bobby Flay video about it. Hey, it's Neville here, and I'd love to explain 4 reasons getting on our email list can benefit your life. Number 1, every Friday we send out the stupid email, which is a swipe, thought, uplifting, picture, interesting, and drawing. People regularly say this is their most look forward to email they get all week. Number 2, we spend a lot of time and money filming great interviews about content marketing, copywriting, communications, growing a business, and just figuring out more about how the world works. For example, we've interviewed the CEOs of AppSumo, Udemy, The Hustle, and many more. There's so many golden nugget lessons we learn from each of them, and I hope you get in on this too. Number 3, a single idea can possibly change the trajectory of your life. Just one thing you learn or pick up from these emails can potentially have a gigantic impact on you. And number 4, we cover topics on how to grow a small business from just a side project to becoming something that's a full-time career. And bonus number 5, you can unsubscribe at any time. One click, poof, I am out of your life forever. Losing a subscriber is painful, so I've tried to make sure my email list is full of useful information to business owners and people trying to improve their copy and communication skills. So go to copywritingcourse.com and enter your email. We'll handle the rest. Thank you.